I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
This is Stephanie, and I am your very own truth detective coming at you on a weekend. I love weekends, and I love spending my weekends with you and just going through some stuff that I've found out, going through my past episode that was about 2 weeks ago, and sharing some really great videos on this video. So I hope that you can sit back, relax, a little bit, and just be open to everything that we are discovering. Our cold open, talking about openings, was Ronald Reagan from 1986, August of 1986, with his 9 most terrifying words in the English language. Well, we're from the government and we're here to help. But is the government really helping? I'm not feeling it so much. I probably was about 10 years ago. I felt like the government was kind of on our side and wanted to do what's best for us, you and me. But lately, I've been feeling a little let down, a little sad about it. My latest episode that you can go back to on truthdetectivepodcast.com and listen to is about algorithms, artificial intelligence, and Yuval Noah Harari. And this is a very important episode because it talks about something that is happening right now, and in our history going forward, it will impact us tremendously. So do we trust the government with mandates and federal laws and things going forward with AI, artificial intelligence, with algorithms? Because these kind of things will be put into law, right? Eventually, things get put into some kind of governance, and the citizens of the United States or whatever country have to obey those laws. So that it could affect us, and it also very well might affect our military presence with AI, algorithms, robots, all that stuff. So that's a real concern of mine, and it should be to some of the people out there. There are so many people that are excited about this AI development. They can't wait. They say it's so cool. Before you say it's cool, let's do a little research. You know my old saying, question everything, because that's when the real truth comes out. Capital letters, real truth comes out. So I want to share with you a little bit. If you missed my episode 2 weeks ago, that's okay. I have you covered. I have it all. Here is Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote, I want to just show you his book that he wrote in 2016, Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow. This was written to tell us what's going to happen in the future. Part 1 and Part 2 are interesting, but Part 3 is what you really want to get a hold of, because that is his predictions of what is going to be our future. And it's really important that we understand that. He is a World Economic Forum member, and he is the top advisor of the founder, Klaus Schwab. So he does have a lot of say in what happens and what goes on with this AI development. And he talks to a lot of people, right, in the AI Silicon Valley area of, professions. So he knows what he's talking about. But here, it feels like maybe we should be a little more concerned.
In the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, what humanity basically learned to produce was all kinds of stuff, like textiles and shoes and weapons and vehicles. And this was enough for very few countries that underwent the revolution fast enough to subjugate everybody else. What we're talking about now is like a second industrial revolution, but the product this time will not be textiles or machines or vehicles or even weapons. The product this time will be humans themselves. We are basically learning to produce bodies and minds. Bodies and minds are going to be, I think, the two main products of the next wave of all these changes. And if there is a gap between those that know to produce bodies and minds and those that do not, then this is far greater than anything we saw before in history. And this time, if you're not part of the revolution fast enough, then you probably become extinct. Once you know how to produce bodies and brains and minds, so cheap labor in Africa or South Asia or wherever, it simply counts for nothing. Again, I think that the biggest question maybe in economics and politics of the coming decades will be what to do with all these useless people. I don't think we have an economic model for that. My best guess, which is just a guess, is that food will not be a problem. With that kind of technology, you will be able to produce food to feed everybody. The problem is more boredom and what to do with them, and how will they find some sense of meaning in life when they are basically meaningless, worthless. My best guess at present is a combination of drugs and computer games.
Meaningless, useless, worthless? Did he actually say all those words? I'm finding it really, really difficult to understand where he is coming from. And it is really a little bit bothersome that someone that should know better, and everybody at the World Economic Forum seems to be intelligent enough that they should know better than to stick their foot in their mouth and say pretty stupid things. You know, it's really, really horrible. But I wanted to show you, it's interesting because there are a lot of people that are creating a backlash about this AI and all these things. Yuval Noah Harari in that clip was just talking about the Industrial Revolution of the 20th century and how it developed a lot of, cars and textiles and everything like this. And this time in the 21st century, they'll be developing other things like robots and ways of doing things quicker and faster and with more, with less effort and more ingenuity. So I wanted to tell you that there are people that are concerned about what's happening and how fast it's happening. And I think that that is actually a good thing. I think that it's really good that we become aware of it. So I wanted to show you this screen here, Future for Life Institute, and it's a pause on giant AI experiments, an open letter. It says, we call on all AI labs to immediately pause for at least 6 months the training of AI systems more powerful than GPT-4. Now, if you listen to my last episode, GPT-4 is pretty harmless. You ask it a question or for more information, and it spits out an answer, and it gets it from data, from search engines, whatever it does. It's really, really pretty harmless unless you're a parent that has a student that's, using that to make a story or a school paper that they hand in. But it is harmless. And this open letter is signed by a lot of people. It was published in March, and it says here, AI systems with human competitive intelligence can pose profound risks to society and humanity, as shown by extensive research and acknowledged by top AI labs. It's true. So many people that are ex-Google employees, that are like Elon Musk, and yes, even Yuval Noah Harari has signed this acknowledgement about a pause, wanting a pause. And you can sign it too, can sign this pause as well by adding your name to the list. Here it is. Just your full name and email is what they require. And if you want to add the other things, you can. And that is just a great way to put your voice out there. I'm not a big going out and protesting with signs and stuff. I'm not big on that. I'm more of a like I want to do something and I want to do it with impact, and I want to do it with getting that knowledge out there without having to really just do it the traditional ways of just walking around and holding up signs. And I think that the most useful way to use this website is to read all about what their causes are. We have here artificial intelligence, which is what we were just talking about. Go there and you will find that there's a wealth of information here. It tells you all about what the AI is doing right now, and you can read article after article about AI, and then you can decide if you want to sign the petition or um, take action or do anything like this. So I would say that that's a pretty good thing to do if you want to find out more and tell your friends and family they can go here, they can find out more, and that way you know more information so that your friends and your family can have that information as well. I just thought it was a really cool, a website, and I thought it was really cool that a lot of people signed it. And I do think it's really necessary to get it out there that there could be a potential problem, right? I mean, I think that in this last episode, I mentioned Dan Bongino saying that he thinks AI is cool and everything, but it's a little scary because who's doing the algorithms for AI? Who's in charge of that? Is there a pull switch or a stop switch? Is there someone that's going to be in charge? Is it the government? Oh, well, there goes Ronald Reagan's famous line, 9 most terrifying words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. So we have to really start looking at these things seriously. So now I was going through the all the news and everything, and I found another interesting article. Just I wanted to share with you. I just found it the other day, and I thought that, gee, that's kind of a cool thing. I think I'll probably share that with you. And it is a letter from, well, it's something from James The Hill. James Cameron warns weaponization is AI's biggest danger to humanity. And here he does talk about there needs to be this stop and kind of thinking about what's going to happen. So it says here, filmmaker James Cameron warned in an interview Tuesday that the weaponization of AI is the most significant of all the risks that the rapidly developing technology poses to humanity. I warned you guys in 1984, the award-winning filmmaker said. I love that. Somewhat facetiously referring to The Terminator, his movie from that year about a cyborg assassin sent from the future. But you didn't listen. In this interview with Canada's CTV, Cameron also struck a more serious note, pointing to the dangers he sees artificial intelligence AI posing to humanity. He warned specifically of the weaponization of the technology. This is exactly what I'm worried about here, which we predicted might evolve into a situation like a nuclear arms race, where if we don't build it, the other guys are for sure going to build it. You've got to follow the money. Who's building these things? They're either building it to dominate market share. So, what are you teaching? Greed. Or you're building it for defensive purposes. So, what are you teaching it? Paranoia. I think the weaponization of AI is the biggest danger. I think that we will get into the equivalent of a nuclear arms race with AI, he said. It's an interesting article. It goes on, but you understand that even Hollywood people are coming out and saying, this something's not right about this. And I'm happy to see it, because it does begin to you begin to see that as it gets more and more real and it gets more and more ramped up, people are scared to death. What if there isn't some way to stop it? making the algorithms, and why are they making them? Are they governmental algorithms? Are they approved? What if the people that are making the algorithms and the artificial intelligence aren't doing it for the good? They're doing it for nefarious reasons. This is all very important things, and that is why I would probably go to the future for let's see, the Future of Life Institute, and read all about all the things that they have. You have stuff on climate change, on artificial intelligence, and know your stuff so that you can convey that to a lot of people. That's the way I love to do it. As I was, kind of going through all of this kind of cool stuff and trying to find out about some stuff to share with you, I came across a movie that I wanted to definitely share with you, and it has a lot of what we are talking about now in the movie. And I'm very happy to say it, because very rarely do I walk away from a movie and say, now that was a good movie. So this is a movie called Megan, and it's on Amazon Prime. You have to be, it's included with Prime, yes. And if you're not a Prime member, you can pay for it. But it's called Megan. A roboticist working on a lifelike toy android named Megan takes in her orphaned niece. She pairs the two up, trying to solve for both issues, and it does not go as planned. This is a perfect movie with what we were just talking about. Who is doing the algorithms? Who's doing all these things that are going to affect all of us, right? So this movie was really it made me smile that I happened to come across this movie at this time, because it talks about all the things that we've just talked about. Anyway, I wanted to just mention it's a science fiction suspense. It says comedy and it says exciting. Comedy is not a comedy. Please don't go in here thinking it's a comedy. They should have horror on there, for God's sake. It's really kind of scary and exciting. I put that with something that's kind of good and goofy and fun. It's not any of that. And you want me to prove it to you? I'll prove. I come with the receipts here, and I will show you the trailer right now so that you, after we're done here, can go and see this movie. And it is so cool.
Katie, you lost your parents.
Welcome home.
You're my niece. I'm gonna do everything I can to make this place feel like home.
Just wish I could see them again.
I'm not equipped to handle this. I don't even take care of my own plants. I have this project at work. Do you want to see?
Yes.
Ever since I was little, I dreamed of this perfect toy that would protect a kid from ever feeling lonely or sad. This is Megan.
Hi, Megan. I'm Katie. It's nice to meet you, Katie. Do you want to hang out? Okay.
Megan, your goal is to protect Katie from harm, both physical and emotional.
Is that a doll?
Model 3 generative android. Megan, for short.
I can't believe you made this. I love it.
Wanna hang out, yeah, sounds like fun.
Great job.
It's nice to have a friend.
It's honestly like she's part of the family now.
They could be building emotional connections that are too hard to untangle.
She's the happiest she's been since her parents died. Eat the toppings, Katie.
Research shows if you force a child to eat vegetables, they'll be less likely to choose those foods as adults.
Is that so?
Yes. Experts say...
Megan, turn off.
I thought we were having a conversation.
Does she talk? Make her say something.
Stop! Don't! Megan! You should probably run. Megan, did you push Brandon onto the road? I won't let anything harm you.
It's nice to have a friend.
Megan, turn off.
Recalibrating response model. Megan!
It's nice to have a friend.
What's wrong with you? Don't worry, Katie. I won't let anything harm you. ever again.
It's nice to have friends.
Well, what do you think? You know, when I was watching that trailer with you here, it kind of brought back a little bit of like a tense energy from me. And you know something? It's really interesting because it's really done well, and a little bit of it reminds me of The Shining, Stephen King movie, The Shining, and the lighting and all that. It's really, really, I'm really impressed. So it's a movie that you can watch and let me know about if you agree. It's really all about um, uh, this woman, the roboticist, not taking enough time, right? Not taking enough time to discover all the faults of this robot or this algorithm, right? All the things that could go wrong and all the things that could go right. And if there's a point where you know, put the pin in and say stop, how you do that. So it has everything to do with what we were just talking about. Just thought it was a movie you could watch tonight or during a weekend or maybe a night with a glass of wine or two. Probably need it with this movie. It's really great. It is scary though. Wanted to keep that in mind. Okay, so now we're going to kind of go on to something completely different and completely off course because we are talking about the truth, right? The truth detective, me and you both are truth detective. We are in the truth detective movement, and that is where we are. We question everything. But remember, as we go along here, what Ronald Reagan said, right? The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so recently, very recently, last couple of months, I think April, Bobby Kennedy Jr. has announced that he's thrown his hat in the ring to run for president. And that is so cool. I love that. He's a wise person. His family is as close to a royal family that America has, or the Camelot kind of dream family. JFK being the president in the early '60s, and Robert Kennedy being a attorney general, and I mean, it's just everything about the Kennedys is very interesting to me and to a lot of people. So when I heard this, I immediately, my ears pricked up because um, I love a story that or news that is going to maybe perhaps help our situation. And I actually want you to think about something as I'm saying that, because we are so politicized right now. I just hate it. I hate this whole thing. It's left or right. No, 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 no. Please, let's get out of that thinking and get into it's either right or wrong. And if you do your research, if you seek the truth, and if you really want to know what's right or what's wrong, you have to do it that way. You have to have fact-based evidence. This is how I have done everything in research my whole life. So let's just keep that in mind. Listen, this was made about a year ago, before Bobby Kennedy Jr. Announced that he was running for president. But I want to tell you that not everybody likes Bobby Kennedy Jr. And it's for many reasons, but this is a great speech here.
What we're seeing today is what I call turnkey totalitarianism. They are putting in place all of these technological mechanisms for control we've never seen before. It's been the ambition of every totalitarian state from the beginning of mankind to control every aspect of behavior, of conduct, of thought, and to obliterate dissent. None of them have been able to do it. They didn't have the technological capacity. Even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps into Switzerland. You can hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. I visited in 1962 East Germany with my father and met people who had climbed the wall and escaped. So it was possible. Many died doing it, but it was possible.
Okay, so it's a great speech. And did you hear him say about the totalitarian turnkey? It's true. Little by little by little, totalitarianism is creeping into our world, and we don't like it, right? We absolutely don't like it. And some people may think it's a right thing for us to do, but it's clearly, if you do the research, he's right. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is right. There is no government that has ever really succeeded with a totalitarian government or regime. And I want to use two words that were on the screen while he was talking, and they were anti-vaxxer and saying that he had made an offensive speech about the Nazis. No, that is just to kind of get you off track. He was speaking from his heart about this passionate totalitarian turnkey thing that he has seen happen in the past. He is not an anti-vaxxer, and he is not an offensive Nazi speaker. A matter of fact, he is totally against both of those things, and I'll show it to you, and I'll prove it to you because I come with the receipts, and you should too, just in case your friends or family members or anyone asks you where you got your information. So let me just do something kind of off the key, fun kind of thing. I don't want to spend a lot of time with this, but right after he announced that he was running for president, Bobby Kennedy Jr. put this out on Twitter.
Let's go. That's a fit boy.
Well, it's a great thing to see. And I will tell you why. Not because he's doing push-ups or because he looks great without a shirt on or anything stupid like that. It is the fact that he is showing discipline, strength, a lot of things that are mentally going in your head as you are working out and getting better and better, stronger and stronger. I used to be a fitness instructor, and I used to always tell people to keep going, keep getting at it, keep getting better. Don't give up. Don't give up. This is important. Don't give up. And also, it is a productive activity to want to stay in shape, keep yourself in shape, eat well, and do physical activity, which Bobby Kennedy Jr. has spoken about over and over and over again. And listen, look at me bouncing on my chair over and over and over again. He has mentioned that this is very important. So I do think it talks about his intellectual faculties, how he has discipline, and how he value what he values. He values a good life. He values the arts and entertainment and having all these nice things. But he also values living well and healthy. So that was so great. And the title of the Twitter post was "Getting Ready for My Debates with President Biden," which I thought was perfect. And that is really, really cool. I think for right now, I'm going to show you this just while we're talking about it, just to let you know it's out there. Not that you want to do anything with it or whatever it is. I just want to show you that Kennedy 2024 is a website that you can go to. Honest government. Well, you know what? I'll tell you. I have read most of the stuff on this website. And it's so great and refreshing to hear someone smart, and I use a hard T there, smart and right on a lot of issues that are affecting me and you. Perhaps you don't know. They affect all of us. But you can go here, you can find out all the information, take action, and this tells you all the things that they have going on. It is really a great website, environmentalist. We know that Bobby Kennedy Jr. is an environmentalist. He is a lawyer, a civic lawyer, and he has done a lot of good things, including a lot of environmentally good things. So I don't want you to forget to read this, and perhaps donate if you see that you like what you're reading. I don't want to leave anyone out. You know, he's a really important person in our culture, and I think that he actually deserves to be heard, either, from everybody. Remember, it's not left or right, it's right or wrong. And remember, again, what Ronald Reagan has said. The 9 most terrifying words are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Well, if our government seems to be a little jagged and broken, perhaps someone like Kennedy, who's 69, looks great, is in shape, cares about the environment, believes that we don't need a totalitarian government, which nobody should want, and has a lot of the things that some people are looking for. Why not just take a chance and find out what he's all about? So that's kind of a cool thing. And now I want to share with you something that I am excited about, but I also want to share uh, just where I mostly get my research lately is from a website that is put together by Bobby Kennedy Jr. Organization, and that would be the Defender. Um, I have I don't know how I got turned on to the Defender, and I have no idea, but I do get a lot of my research from this website, and I will share it with you right now. You can see it is a website that has a lot to offer. It's Children's Health Defense News and Views. It has children's health defense, COVID, big pharma, big energy, big food, big tech, big chemical, community, and legal. And it's out every single day, and it comes in these little nice emails, and you can go down and look at all these things. Lawyers denounce muzzling of Kennedy at government censorship hearing. Hail advances in censorship lawsuits. I'm going to be talking about that in a second. Lawmakers torpedo amendment to force airlines to rehire pilots fired for refusing COVID shots. Listen, this is very important stuff we have here, but you can go on and on and on and read a lot of their stuff. They also have a CHD TV, and they have some pretty cool things here. So I would suggest that you check it out, and just for your own sake, go in and watch a couple of these everyday shows that they have. It's amazing what they have, what they're all about. So if you wanted to, you could go and check out the chd.tv. The Defender Show is all about, it's every morning, 10 o'clock my time Eastern, and 7 a.m. if you're in the West Coast. But all these things are here for you to watch. It's so much fun, and it's so exciting. And you know what? It's something that you have to think, is this the truth? Am I being told the truth? What is the truth? And you will find out very quickly if it's for you or not. It may not be, but remember, there's no left or right here. There's just the right or wrong. What you feel inside that counts. Do you trust these shows? Do you trust the events? Do you trust the movies they have? Do you trust what you're being told? That is really what matters here the most. So that's kind of a neat thing I wanted to share with you. This is, like I said, where I get most of my research. And they do have, actually, I wanted to show you this really briefly, is they do have different shows on Friday Roundtable, the Financial Rebellion, This Week with Mary and Polly, really, really cool. It's just a wrap-up show on Sundays. But this doctor, I love, Brian Hooker, PhD. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so I'm not going to talk anymore about that. I'm just going to tell you that I love getting the emails, and I love sharing that with you. And I have used audio clips from my for my podcasts from that website. I just wanted to let you know that is what's going on. Okay, so we had on let's see, Wednesday or Thursday. Let's just take a look. I think it was Wednesday. We had Bobby Kennedy Jr. in Congress talking to do a congressional speech, and it went as well as expected, I guess. And he had a few choice words to say. And what I have to say is one sentence that sticks out in my mind that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard is when he said, "This is a censor. How can you censor a censor? How can you censor a censorship hearing?" Oh my God, that is so classic and true. But it is really what was going on. Let me show you this. It's quite serious, and it should be taken seriously. So let me know what you think.
Not 10. Could we put 5 on the clock and start it running?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to start. I want to put aside my written statement for a moment and address one of the points that was brought up. I think an important point by the ranking member, that this body ought to be concerning itself with the issues that impact directly the American people. The rising price of groceries, 76% over the past 2 years for basic foodstuff, the war in Ukraine, the inflation issues, the border issues, many, many other issues that concern us all as a nation. We can't do that without the First Amendment, without debate. When I gave my speech, my announcement speech in Boston 2 months ago, YouTube, I talked about all those issues. I focused on grocery. I focused on the fact that working class people can no longer afford to live in this country. I talked about inflation, all the issues that deeply concern you, and that you've devoted your career to alleviating those issues. 5 minutes into my speech, when I was talking about Paul Revere, YouTube deplatformed me. I didn't talk about vaccines in that speech. I didn't talk about anything that was a verboten subject. I just was talking about my campaign and things, the conversation that we ought to be having with each other as Americans. But I was shut down. And that is why the First Amendment's important. Debate, congenial, respectful debate is the fertilizer, it's the water, it's the sunlight for our democracy. We need to be talking to each other. Now, this is a letter that many of you signed, many of my fellow Democrats. I've spent my life in this party. I've devoted my life to the values of this party. This 102 people signed this. This itself is evidence of the problem that this hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The charges in this, and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for. And I was censored not just by the Democratic administration, I was censored by the Trump administration. I was the first person censored by as the chairman pointed out, by the Biden administration 2 days after it came into office. Anti-Semitism, racism, these are the most appalling, disgusting pejoratives, and they're applied to me to silence me, because people don't want me to have that conversation about the war, about groceries, about inflation, about the war on the middle class in this country that we need to be having. And by the way, I want to say this while I'm on the record, that in my entire life, and why I'm under oath, in my entire life, I have never uttered a phrase that was either racist or anti-Semitic. I have spent my life fighting my professional career, fighting for Israel, for the protection of Israel. I have a better record on Israel than anybody in this chamber today. I'm the only person who has publicly objected to the $2 billion payout that the Biden administration is now making to Iran, which is a genocidal program. I'm the only one who's objected to that. I've fought more ferociously for Israel than anybody. But I am being censored here through this target, through smears, through misinterpretations of what I've said, through lies, through association, which is a tactic that we all thought we had been discredited and dispensed with after the Army McCarthy hearings in the 1950s. But those same weapons are now being deployed against me to silence me. I know many of the people who wrote this letter. I don't believe there's a single person who signed this letter who believes I'm anti-Semitic. I do not believe that. There is no evidence of that. I want to say something I think that's more important, and it goes directly to what you talked about, ranking member, which is the need, this toxic polarization that is destroying our country today. And how do we deal with that? This kind of division is more dangerous for our country than any time since the American Civil War. And how do we deal with that? How are we going to, every Democrat on this committee believes that we need to end that polarization. Do you think you can do that by censoring people? I'm telling you, you cannot. That only aggravates and amplifies the problem. We need to start being kind to each other. We need to start being respectful to each other. We need to start restoring the comedy to this chamber and to the rest of America, but it has to start here. My uncle, Edward Kennedy, has more legislation with his name on it than any senator in United States history. Why is that? Because he was able to reach across the aisle, because he didn't deal in insults, because he didn't try to censor people. He brought home people who were antithetical to what he believed in. He came home almost every weekend with people like Orrin Hatch to our house at the compound in Hyannisport. At that time, Orrin Hatch to me was like Darth Vader, because I was an environmentalist. And I was saying, why is Teddy bringing this guy home? But he knew that he was effective because he understood that comedy and respect and kindness and compassion and empathy for other people is the way that the only way to restore the function in this chamber. But more importantly, today we need to give an example in the leadership of our country of being respectful to each other. If you think I said something that's anti-Semitic, let's talk about the details.
I'm telling you all the things that I'm accused of right now by you. And in this letter are distortions, they're misrepresentations. I didn't say those things. There's fragments that I said, but I denounce anybody who uses the words that I have said to imply something that is negative about people who are Jewish. I never said those things. And I want to point out also that the chairman pointed to Dennis Kucinich, who's fighting behind me. There is no two people in the country who feel more differently about American politics than these two people. And yet they were friends. Dennis attended his children's basketball games, attended his daughter's wedding. This is what we need, how we need to start treating each other in this country. We have to stop trying to destroy each other, to marginalize, to vilify, to gaslight each other. We have to find that place inside of ourselves of light, of empathy, of compassion, and above all, we need to elevate the Constitution of the United States, which was written for hard times. And that has to be the premier compass for all of our activities.
Okay. So let me go back. I want to I jotted down a couple of things that I thought, and I truly, wow, that he said a mouthful. He really said a lot here. He was firing back at Stacey Plaskett, who is a Democrat, who was giving him a hard time about everything, it seemed. And she did not want Bobby Kennedy Jr. to be in Congress testifying at all in the hearing. And it was obvious. But what I wrote down here while he was speaking is free speech is the fertilizer, the water, and the sunshine for this country. How beautiful is that? How refreshing and wonderful that is. We have to be kind to each other, compassionate, empathetic. Right, we do. We have to get back to that point. And I will tell you, I have really, never, Bobby Kennedy Jr., I know he's been around, I know he's an environmentalist and everything, but he is really speaking common, basic truth here, that we need to appreciate each other, no matter what our political views are, put them aside. Remember what I said, no left, no right, just right and wrong. What you think is right. Okay? What you think is right or wrong. That is the key question. We have to seek the truth, and we have to find it through all kinds of research, even down rabbit holes. But as far as I can see, in my own opinion, Bobby Kennedy Jr. is a stand-up guy who wants what is good for America. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to that. I know it was kind of a long speech. It was 9 minutes and 5 seconds. Thank you so much. If you've sped ahead and missed it, you can go back and listen to it. And also, you can watch it on YouTube. I will include the link. And I would really love to get your impact or just your input and how it impacted you. So that is kind of a good thing to have, right? And he is probably one of the. Let me see if I can get this back here. He is a great candidate for president, because we do need to get back to our values, right? I'm not saying Judeo-Christian values. I'm just saying that the traditional values are love, empathy, kindness, the things that we've always known up until recently. So that is something that I wanted to share with you. And that is it. So now we're going to switch again to another subject, a truth, trust subject. And keep in mind what Ronald Reagan said back in August of 1986. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. It is true. So now I want to share something with you that's just another little thing that has been perhaps, maybe, I don't know, maybe blown up and blown out of proportion, and maybe um, been, kind of made people feel bad about what they're thinking. So I wanted to share this with you. It's kind of important that you listen to where you get your news. I know we've been through this before, but this is a a website that is sarcastic, I'm sure, in true meaning, and it's pretty funny. But you will see that it's a lot like the Babylon Bee or the Onion, where it's hard to take seriously because it's ridiculous. But some people do get their news from papers and from articles like this. Let me share my screen, and I will show you that there are some people that only get news from climate experts that say things like this. Okay. Climate experts baffled by newfound phenomenon called summer. Shocking new data has revealed temperatures have consistently risen since January. Yes. This is a kind of tongue in cheek, of course. Nobody is quite sure exactly what has been driving the increase, but everyone agrees that the answer is that we have less people, less cars, and more taxes. Well, that's true, actually. That part is true. There has there have been multiple victims of the deadly, seemingly endless increase of temperatures. Of course, then they have to make a joke out of this, right? So they show this is my Aunt Baldwin, so forth and so on. But you can read this article. A Twitter user mourns the passing of their auntie who was completely disintegrated. Experts predict that should current trends continue, the entire planet will be completely set on fire and life as we know it will end. There are some talks of something called winter possibly returning, and we may see a trend of cooling. However, this is currently being dismissed as wild conspiracy theories with no basis in reality. Now, obviously, we can see that's a joke, and this is just how some people approach climate change. It's summer, people get hot. Oh my gosh, it's winter. We're going through global cooling. Well, it's cold because it's winter. So these kind of things you have to take with a tongue in cheek. There are some people out there, and there are some people out there that will look at this and say, "Oh, oh, is this true?" Well, so far as I can see, there's only one thing that's kind of true. Nobody is quite sure exactly what has been driving the increase, but everyone agrees that the answer is that we have less people, less cars, and more taxes. Okay, so that's kind of like a word salad kind of a thing. But anyway, you understand the point. Just don't go with everything that you read. Do your research. That's my favorite thing, right? Is research. Question everything. That's when the real, capital real truth comes out. So you have to do that. So now I want to stop at this point and share something with you that I found last night. It's like a 10-second video, but it's funny and you'll get a laugh out of it, I hope. And it's just one of those silly things that you should kind of just take with the tongue in cheek kind of a thing and just laugh at it. Okay, so let me get this. Okay.
Terrell and in Dallas, your heat index is 107. Everyone in McKinney is dead. The temperature, the heat index right now in McKinney is 10,000. What is that? 101,105. It's hot in McKinney.
I told you it was short, but it is kind of funny the way people will believe whatever they are told. And it's only a select few, all right? That's why we can't be so serious about it, but we can be serious about finding out what is going on with the truth, and if not, to believe it. Who do you trust? And who do you think is telling you the truth? And who brings the receipts? Who brings the research to you? Is it someone that you trust? Or is it like Ronald Reagan said, I'm the government and I'm here to help? Okay, so we always have to question that. Now, all kidding aside, and this is really, I mean it, I'm going to play some Ian Plimer on a geologist, a meteorologist, a climatologist, to talk some straight talk that I find that I can't ignore. Here he is.
You can see very, very clearly that we are being misled. We are being misled with information which is either cooked or very, very specifically plucked out to make the story look as if we are in a crisis. We're not in a crisis. There is no climate emergency. We are living in the best times you could ever live on planet Earth. And we are so fragile and we're so protected and we're so wealthy that if someone drops a feather, we panic.
Well, it seems people are desperate to feel like there is a crisis and to be anxious about it. Steve Koonin also makes the point in his book that governments across the globe are making trillion-dollar decisions based on what is seen to be settled science. Have a look at Joe Biden's massive new commitment last week to reduce emissions. Are we rushing to close down entire industries based on incomplete science, Ian?
No, this is just another tulip craze. We've seen these things before. We're so wealthy, we can afford to waste enormous amounts of money. The key scientific point is it has never been proven that human emissions of carbon dioxide drive global warming. Only 3% of emissions are from humans. The rest is natural, from ocean degassing mainly, but some from volcanoes. So if you're to prove that humans and their emissions of the gas of life change climate, then you also have to prove that the natural emissions, 97% of all emissions, don't change climate. That has never been addressed. We have a fallacy from day one in this whole climate hysteria. It's got nothing to do with the environment. It's got nothing to do with being green, except that being green means you get a huge pile of greenbacks. This is about money. This has got nothing to do with the climate. It's got nothing to do with the environment. It is, can I create a new way to skin the punter alive? And that's what's happening. Just look at your electricity bill and just wonder why in this country we had cheap, reliable electricity. Now it's very expensive. Now your job is threatened because of this expensive electricity. This is probably the biggest con that we've ever had, maybe the biggest con since the Dutch tulip craze. It is a con. It's not underpinned by science. It's very interesting that when people are not beholden to government, then all of a sudden they speak the truth. Isn't that wonderful?
I love him. It's Ian Plimer. I have another small clip that I will include in the description or the show notes, and you can hear him. It makes a lot of sense. The other one, he talks about the climate change and the warming and cooling and how it relates to, or how it doesn't relate to carbon dioxide. That one is very interesting too. They're both very small clips. I didn't know Ian Plimer, and now I do, and I'm so happy I do. And by the way, I do want to mention another person, well, two other people that my shout outs go to is Patrick Moore, who founded Greenpeace and stopped and got out of owning Greenpeace because they were getting too political. A lot of people don't like that political left-right thing. I don't either. And I think that it's better to do what's right and what's wrong for you individually and for the country. So that's the way to look at it as well. Now, so I have that for you and Patrick Moore, and I also have Gregory Wrightstone for you talking about climate. And these are people that actually have really studied. They are climatologists, they are geologists, and they they absolutely sit down and study the climate crisis, or what they consider the climate crisis. And the thing is that often people say 97% of the climatologists, or the International Panel on Governmental Global Governmental Climate Change, say this. What about the 3% of the climatologists, or the people, that the meteorologists and the climate change people that are not counted for? Their opinions are not counted for, like the Patrick Moores, like the Ian Clymers, like the Gregory Wrightstones. Aren't you interested in finding out that it's all about the truth? Don't trust me. Don't, trust what I'm saying. You do your own research. But remember, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Well, we have to look at that and say, how are you helping? How are you going to help us? And that is what you have to do. That's it. Now we're on to something a little different, but this is my last example of we are from the government and we're here to help. Well, that is something that we have to keep in mind. Lately, I have been studying a little bit about this UFO, UAP craze that's been going around, and I want to just let you know that I find it very fascinating. I'm not going to lie, it's very fascinating. And I have known about Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, for a very long time, and his UFO following, his just everything that he does that tells us about ETs or UFOs, and how it affected us in last century, and it's just so interesting and fascinating and historical, the things that this Dr. Stephen Greer comes out with. It's mostly about UFOs and man-made vehicles, that kind of thing. And he has a terrific reputation. I wanted to play a little bit from him. It's only a minute and 24 seconds. I wanted to play a little bit from him, and then I wanted to get your take on that, and then how he says, there's something that he says that's very important, and I don't want you to miss it.
To create the specter of a threat from outer space that does not exist. Werner von Braun stated on his deathbed, and we have the testimony of his assistant, that he said, they will first have the Cold War, then we decided there would be nations of concern, then global terrorism. We have this testimony from before 9/11. Then that would be followed by threats from outer space. They'll start talking about asteroids and things of this sort, but the ultimate one they're going to play is the alien threat, and it's all a lie, and it's all a hoax. But in order for the lie to work, they have had to create a body of disinformation, false information, and frightening scenarios, and actual events that would be convincing to our policymakers like Reagan, convincing to the average person, and to the UFO public that consumes videos, entertainment consoles, movies, etc. And that has been the 50 to 60 year plan. Don't forget that no less a figure than Douglas MacArthur in his last address to the Congress said World War III will be interplanetary.
what we're seeing and what he's saying is that there were certain things that are happening that are leading up to a World War III that is going to be interplanetary. But to have that happen, you have to have everybody on board, including people that that don't even know how it's going to happen or if it's going to happen. People that haven't been what the what the government calls read into or told about how these things are happening. So, when you are wondering about UFOs and you go to, or anything, and you go to protest outside the steps in Congress, your congressman or your congresswoman or the president or whoever it is, may not know about what you're talking about, because we do have covert operations here in the United States with the CIA, the FBI, and there are whistleblowers that are coming out and are saying that there are these people that want to create mayhem and commotion and all these bad things so that people will believe them and they'll actually ask for help when things don't go their way. And that's how they get to a totalitarian government, one world government. So that's kind of the in and out of it. There's more to it. I love for you to watch a movie that I'm going to put in the show notes. It is The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. It is by Stephen Greer. I do really like him. I like what he says. But this here I have is Ronald Reagan, since he did mention Ronald Reagan. He did reference Ronald Reagan, saying how it might be okay. Actually, it might be a good thing if we had an alien invasion.
In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
Well, that was Ronald Reagan talking about how maybe an alien invasion isn't so bad, right? I mean, there are people that actually, it's a long history, long story, but there are people that figure out, people in the government, people are in high places that figure out that the only way they will get what they want is if they bring fear and chaos and commotion to a big number of people, and this is a perfect way to do it. It is absolutely flawless, and that is totally fine with them. It's fine that they're doing this to society, to our culture, and it's for the betterment of mankind, or whatever they say. Question everything, right? Remember, who do you trust? Who do you believe in? Who's telling the truth? Not left or right, just right or wrong. Remember that. The last thing I want to share with you is another Stephen Greer. It's a little snippet. He was on a podcast, the Sean Ryan Show. I want to leave that link where you can get to it. He has a lot of cool guests. And a matter of fact, he had Stephen Greer on twice, once 4 months ago and once and another time about 3 weeks ago. He's great. And he has a lot of whistleblowers that came out that saw some pretty reverse engineered kind of vehicles and pretty interesting stuff that that these whistleblowers have to say. And I just want to show you what happens to a whistleblower when someone from above or some person that's in charge finds out that you blew the whistle.
What were some of the things that were in the top secret documents?
And there's public documents now about this that leaked out. You can look it up. And what happened is that he was also threatened personally and with demotion. He was shocked that he had been threatened and denied access to these projects. I wasn't, because I said, well, you're in good company. The SecDef, Secretary of Defense has, the President, the Director of the CIA, and by then I had met with key members in the Congress and Senate Intelligence Committee. They had all been pushed aside and denied access. So by then I had already accepted this new paradigm of there being, as Senator Inouye said, and I'm quoting, there's a secret government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own funding mechanism that's above the law and free from the law itself. I'm almost giving an exact quote here.
Okay, so what we're seeing here is maybe something that you do need to do research on, like I have, and like most people that have heard these UFO or UAP stories, as they're called, as the UFOs are called now, that you need to kind of do your own research. It's really simple. There are certain organizations out there that are under our radar, that are doing things that aren't good for anybody. You know, human trafficking, drug running, sex trafficking, gun running, all these things that are being done under darkness and under the cover that some of the government, most of these government officials don't even know are happening, and they're happening for certain reasons. And Stephen Greer does go in, Dr. Stephen Greer, actually, I should say, does go into this in his most recent film, The Last Century and How to Reclaim It. Or, I'm sorry, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. It is very interesting. It goes back to the 1900s, to the Industrial Revolution, which, by gosh, we're going right back to the beginning of the show with Yuval Noah Harari, talked about the Industrial Revolution and how that changed things and how we're moving into this new era. But he does also talk about Nikola Tesla, and all the inventions that were made and were not able to come out because of greed and money and that kind of thing, and how it all ties in. So I would check that out. I would definitely want you to see that. I've gone down some pretty deep rabbit holes regarding this subject in the last couple of weeks, and I hope that you get the opportunity to at least just find out about it. Just do a research on it on DuckDuckGo or on some, get a VPN or whatever it is that you need to do, so that maybe if you don't want people knowing what you're looking at, or someone spying on you, they won't find out. But you should definitely, we ought to all want to know more about that, because it affects us and how we could have been a completely different world had it not been for the people that are higher up than us being greedy and money hungry and wanting what they want, whether it be, I can go down the list, AI or climate change or, any one of these things. A new president that makes some very fine points and makes a lot of common sense. These are all issues that tie in to what Stephen Greer and that movie talked about. So take a little time out and see it. Now I want to show you how I take a little time out on my own self, with myself, and by myself, and love what I'm doing when I'm not doing research. It's hard to believe that there are things that I, am doing and interested in besides research. Some people are saying, you've done that? You actually do that? Yeah, I do. And I started out by reading real books, right? This is a real book, right? I have never given up on my books. And this one is a Frankenstein, and I've chosen to read it because, can anyone guess? Well, in 1888, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, and it was about a doctor that put together a boy out of body parts, trying to make him um, a person or a sentient being that he could control, and that was, all a big part of it. But what happened was it went a little sideways, and I'm not going to give you too much away, but he ended up killing the boy that Frankenstein made, ended up killing his master, and that was very interesting. And that's what could happen with AI. Back again with the AI, that's what could happen. It could get out of control, and we could have a monster running around with different body parts. That's my dystopian kind of thing coming out. An apocalyptic monster running around with other people's body parts and us not knowing what to do. But that is something that we are concerned with, and I am going to read this book if it's going to be the last thing I read on earth. I'm halfway through, and wish me luck on that. Okay, so the next thing that I want to tell you about, people say to me, have fun. What do you do? How do you smile? What makes you happy? And I would say the same thing to you. But this is the thing. Everything that I do, I think about. And then I say, am I just going to want to do it, or am I going to want to do it? Because if you want to do it, you want to do it. Then when it comes time, you don't want to do it. So these are things that I think about, and I want you to think about too. Doing things that are interesting and that you don't have to really worry about so much, right? So here I'm gonna just hold this up. My vinyl collection is quite large. I would suggest people maybe perhaps investing in a record player and vinyl. It sounds better. The music sounds better. So anyway, I want to show you this. Okay, here's this. Well, I'm going to see Peter Frampton tomorrow at 8 p.m. in Port Chester, New York. I can't wait, at the Capitol Theater. If anybody is from this area here in the kind of Greenwich, Connecticut, Port Chester, New Rochelle, New York area, Peter Frampton is going to be there at the Capitol Theater. And that is so cool. This is the third time I've seen him. And I just love happy endings, happy stories. And this is a happy story. Now, Peter Frampton, when I saw him, he was having the hand problem from where he played guitar. I think he's right-handed. And he was having a hand problem. Let's just see. Hold on just a minute. We can tell. Yeah, he's right-handed. Okay, I just wanted because it does show you. Anyway, so he was having a hand problem, and he did a farewell tour, and we felt very sad for him. And it was, my farewell tour. And now I hear that the tour is called Never Say Never. And I think that he probably went to a doctor, got his hand fixed, and he's all set to go. I can't wait to see it. And when I'm there, guess what? I'm not going to be thinking about anything else but enjoying the music, enjoying listening to Peter Frampton and the songs that I've loved so much from Peter Frampton. And I am going to come home and read my book and enjoy reading an actual book with actual paper pages on it. And I am going to have a no social Sunday, as it's called. That is so exciting, and I am looking forward to that. And I hope that you do the same thing. But you have to remember one thing. A couple of things, okay? Listen to who you get your information from. Is it true? Is it false? Do you trust that person or that entity, that group? Do you trust them? Do your own research, question everything, but most importantly, be kind to everybody, everywhere. And do you know why? Because it's the right thing to do, first of all. But second of all, it will come back to you tenfold, 100-fold, if you're nice to everybody. It will come back and you will reap the rewards of being nice to that person or a group of people. And you will maybe make friends and maybe share some great stories or great things with these people. So remember that. And remember, always remember, I can't say it enough, really, question everything. That's when the real truth comes out. I will see you next Friday for the next edition of Truth Detected with me, Stephanie Lee. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.